But yeah, so on your channel, you've got awesome stuff, and a lot of it is this good balance of, I call it moon math, and like just getting people excited. Like
Yes.
it's ultimately their decision what they do with their money. So I hate it when people are like, "Hey, don't talk about what it could do." Okay, well, we're all here for the money, and we do want to know about coins and their potential. And so I think you have to be responsible with it. But I feel like your channel does a really good job of balancing that, because you talk all about Pulsechain, and like you're giving people really good information and getting them excited. And if they're not excited and paying attention, they're going to miss out on these great opportunities. So it's almost like necessary to not do what some of the channels do, which is just kind of lie to people, pull up charts, get them confused, and then just try to get them to do leverage trading or whatever the new scheme is. But you do a good job of like, hey, here's what I think is going to happen. Here's what I want you to do. And I don't hear people take that tact because they're so afraid of, hey, no financial advice.
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't think, I don't even know what I feel anymore. I feel like that. I don't know how I feel about the financial advice thing that people do, because they'll give financial advice and they'll say, "Oh yeah, no financial advice," and it's like we're here trying to all succeed. And
It's
I don't
because
know.
of the rules.
What do you think of that?
I think it's like a combination of rules and regulations. Like if your channel
Yeah.
gets too big, and then let's say that the IRS looks at your videos, then they could be like, "Oh, you gave people financial advice." But in reality, we're all here for like financial advice, right? You want to
Yes.
become smarter from it. Yeah, YouTube too might demonetize your channel if you say that this is financial advice and you're not a CPA or something. But that hardly ever happens.
That's
Right?
true.
It's true they could do
Well,
that, but that never happens. The real
but
reason though
you're
is that
not saying it. You're just giving. I felt like it was great advice when you were like, "Hey, here's
yeah,
what's going. This is absolutely going to happen. PulseX is gonna dump immediately." And it's going to dump because everybody's going who missed the sacrifices is going to take what they were able to sacrifice for and use a portion of it to buy Pulsechain. And
yeah,
I don't know how long that'll last, but I've heard you say, here's what I want you to do. Just relax, and on day 30, after a month, I think prices will stabilize. Well, if you go look at the history of any chart, that's pretty good advice. You're not
yes,
saying, oh, every coin always goes down or goes up. Like, yeah, that first couple days can be crazy.
it's insane.
And Pulse Chain, like, what do you think is going to happen? I mean, that was the basics of what PulseX might do and Pulse Chain, but what do you think? Is there any way to know what exactly is going to happen any more in depth with those two?
Yeah, but just based off of how coins normally launch, how tokens normally launch, they always go crazy within the first week to a month. Like even Zen did the same thing too. The first week it was so expensive, like crazy prices,
Yeah.
like 1,000 times higher than the prices right now. But that was the first week, so
Yeah.
you don't know if it was going to go higher or lower. So then, of course, it went lower because you can mint as much as possible.
Yeah.
So if you and you bought some Zen then, you would be bankrupt now, right? So that's why you
Yeah.
have to tell people to be cautious. But based off of history, what normally happens, it explodes the first week or month, and then it goes down, stabilizes, and then you can start buying. So even Zen stabilized around like November. So it's been about the same price since November. Of course, it's lower, but it's about the same price.
Right.
Meanwhile, October was 20 times the price and stuff. So you have to be
Yeah.
cautious how you approach it.
How do you feel about Zen? Since we kind of brought that up, there are going to be people that don't see the other stuff, like the other show that we did. So I'm going to kind of pretend like we didn't talk on the other show. But how do you feel about Zen and that whole movement?
I think that Zen is like a perfect mix between Ethereum and Bitcoin. So when it comes to Bitcoin, it's about how it was released. Like Bitcoin was released for free. Pretty much, used to be able to just go to a faucet and just get like 2 or 3 Bitcoin every single day, which is crazy. Just
Interesting.
like click a button and it'll be like, okay, come back in 8 hours. We'll give you another Bitcoin. So that's the same thing that's happening right now with Zen. Zen, you can mint as much Zen as you want right now
Yeah.
for free, kind of, sort of, but it's like $5. But Zen doesn't get any of that $5. It's the Ethereum gets that $5, right?
Right.
So it's just the cost of business. So AKA it's pretty much free to mint Zen, and then you can mint as much Zen as possible. And
It
then
was made as free as they could make it, right? They
as
couldn't.
possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like it has a lot of educational purposes too. Because I remember him saying at the very beginning, I'm doing this for educational purposes. And I'm like, maybe. Or maybe you just want to make another version of Bitcoin. But then I realized that he immediately came out with NFTs on this. And now he's going to be doing stake NFTs. And then he's going to be doing a layer 1. And then flash loans. So I was like, wow, I guess he really is doing education. This is really, he's doing education through actually putting out these programs, putting out these protocols to do the point. And it's like as cheap as humanly possible. You can't really get cheaper than the gas fees. So it makes sense.
And there is a really strong community, which it at some point, I when I talked to Jack, I was like, hey, there's 2 things that you need. I think you're nailing one of them. And you've got to have community. And then the other thing, I guess it was actually 3 things, but you have the community. It needs to continue to grow. You've got the onboarding. Like this is a great tool for onboarding. But eventually this has to pivot and it has to have some sort of stabilization for price. You're doing all these things to try to help with burning the coin and to try to level this out. But if this does go to 18 zeros and then to 28 zeros, like you're not going to be able to accomplish some of the goals that I've heard you talk about. Like, hey, I want this to be used for all purposes on all chains, but specifically, I want it to be used as like a form of tender, the ability to pay for things with it. Well, you can't have it continue to lose money and for people to use it like that. And so if he's able to accomplish his goals, there's going to need to be a pivot at some point. And that led me to one of the notes I took down when I've been watching your videos for a while now, but I really liked some analysis that you did that you've recently said has actually changed already, but you did a whole bunch of math on Xen. And I was wondering if you could kind of talk about that just briefly, that video and what the overall point was of where Xen's going and how you came up with the math and why you think that might have already changed a little bit.
Yeah, there was a person on Twitter that I saw where he did the calculations of when the amount of time for the maximum mint, the maximum claim length, when it's going to reach the amount of fees that you have to pay to do a regular mint. You know what I mean? So for
break even?
A break even, yeah. So with Xen, maximum amount of days that you can do a claim to mint, like let's say that you mint it right now, but you're not able to get it until like how many days is right now it's about 445 days. So usually when you do that mint claim for 445 days, you get tons and tons of money at the end. But because the price of Xen is constantly dropping, he was like, okay, so I think it's going to break even where after 443 days, you're only going to get this amount of money in USD. And that USD will be completely equal to the fees that you pay for minting and all that stuff, right?
Okay.
So yeah, so pretty much like to mint one wallet in Xen costs about $5, $6. So he's saying that when is the time that $5, $6 is how much you're going to get 400 days from now, and that's going to be when the price reduces to 0.003, right? So then I had to do a linear regression to then do a test or do an estimate of when that 0.3 is going to hit the way that Xen has been reducing in price. And that point where it connected was like around March, right? And then of course I was like, okay, this is just an educated guess. This is not guaranteed, right? This is just a random moon boy math is what they call it, right?
Yeah.
But then some people were bringing up other points that like we might actually hit the bottom sooner than that because new projects keep coming out over and over and over. And in fact, they were like, maybe we already hit the bottom because Phoenix is a protocol that's coming out that burns Xen. And then X1, in order to get X1 token, you have to burn Xen. In order to get the high level NFTs, you have to burn Xen. And then he came out with this staking NFT, which is not necessarily burning Xen, but it like holds Xen for up to 1,000 days. It freezes Xen for 1,000 days, right? So you might as well consider that a 1,000-day burn. So all of these things are just removing the Xen supply from the wider ecosystem. So that's going to make the price go up. high, and therefore maybe the bottom has already happened. So yeah.